Hi guys, and welcome back here to the Dev Realm. And if you guys remember what we did in the last episodes, that we set up our widget. As you can see here, we have a little widget example as you drag and drop the window there. And what we're going to be doing today is actually populating this, or at least working on the item UI. So without waiting too much, we have here the widgets. We have windows and we have inventory. We are not going to touch the inventory stuff yet. So what we are going to do here is that we're going to go basically here on the widget. Okay. And we are going to create a new folder called slot, or in this case, item slot, right? And in here, we're going to create a widget blueprint. And we are going to call this WBP base item slot. All right. And then we're going to create as a base because I would like to make some reusable code on the parent and have the same thing we did. Right. So the first one I would like to do is a list, and a list is easier to manage than a grid. So we're going to create here. What is it? We're going to create here a blueprint, and the parent class here will be just the base item. Right, select that, and this is going to be called WBP list item slot. Right, and now if I open up, let's create a slot. So on our Inkscape, we already have example of more or less how this thing is kind of working, and we have the icon, we have the name, we have the price, which probably not going to do it at the moment, but we're going to leave it open to interpretation, let's say. Because after we can maybe add, I don't know what we're going to do with this in the future. I'm not entirely sure. So the first thing we need to do here is that we have a couple of different things. So we have a different slot from here than from there. So we need to keep that in mind. But anyway, so I'm going to just ungroup. So actually, I'm going to copy this stuff. I like to leave the original UI without changes, because otherwise it gets a little bit messy. But anyway, I'm going to ungroup this thing. And I need to export this, I need to export that, and this doesn't matter, right? I don't use the icon at the moment. So this, I could probably make a little bit bigger. I'm not sure how bigger it needs to be, or, you know, how would I like to make those items to display. But what I'm thinking here is that instead of using this, I could probably use that. What I can do here, maybe use this. And do we have a border? I do not have a border here. I mean, I do have a little bit of a border. So I'm just going to go back here to the fill and stroke. I'm going to go back to the border design. And for now, I can maybe try to pick a color. Like, for example, this light color, right? As you can see, so now we have a little bit of a nice color. And on the fill and stroke, right, so this the painting stuff, and maybe I can try to reduce the opacity a little bit, you know, just so he knows that it's a kind of item or something. And now my idea is that we put the icon here, and then we have the name. Maybe this is a little bit too small. Will that work? Maybe if I hold Control here. I'm going to try to scale down a little bit, just so we have, actually this item list is a little bit big. I'm just going to leave it like here, the item name and then the quantity. And then if you hover over or something, we display the item in a different menu, but that's all we need here. Anyway, I am going to save this stuff. I'm going to click on this and I'm going to export the value. All right. Now I'm going to go back to here and I'm going to find a different folder. I'm going to go back here to the item slots. Item slots. And now inside the item slots, we are going to have the list item background. All right. And now we also going to export this and we're going to just call this the list item slot, and that's going to be exported here. All right, Now that's all we need. We don't need much, to be honest. The UI for that's quite simple. It's more how we display the data rather than how it looks, to be honest. But it looks quite good now, so that's fine. Now on the Unreal Engine, what we're gonna do is we are gonna go back to our, what is it, icons, widgets. So we're gonna right click here and we have the widgets texture. So I'm gonna create here, I'm gonna call this item slots. Item slots within 2s, and then I'll just remove that. Anyway, within the item slots, I'm just gonna drag and drop those two items right here. One thing I forgot to do is just to add a T dash, which stands for texture. If you're trying to create an asset for Unreal, they require you to actually add a couple of certain parameters to make it more standard, and adding T dash is one of them. Anyway, so now let's try to make this logic simple. So let's create here a border, right? A border here, which is nice. Now this border is quite simple, so just gonna add this item right here. I'm not entirely sure the size, but I'm gonna maybe do something like, okay, 400 by 100. Yeah, okay, that sounds decent. It looks good. Looks good. Now I need to decide here how I would like this to look, right? How do I want my widgets to be? So the first thing here is that we're just gonna call this border. And then the next thing I'm gonna do here is that I'm gonna add a vertical list. So I'm gonna add here a vertical, let's say, box. And then within the vertical box, I'm gonna add a horizontal box. Horizontal box right here. Now this horizontal box, I am gonna add for now just an image, which is gonna be the slot. And then I'm gonna add a text, which is gonna be the item name. Now from there, so the image, it's fine right there, so the text is fine. So this is gonna be the item image, sorry, item image, not image, sorry, image, right? And this is gonna be the item name, which is fine. Now I'm gonna make sure it fill up, but we align on the middle. I mean, to be honest, here is quite cool. I like it. I'm just gonna add a little bit of a padding to the left. Maybe 20. Is that 20 too much? No, it's good. Let me just double check how more or less I have my mockup. You know, I have a little bit more in the center. So what we can do here is that this, we can try to fill maybe center. Now let's see, that looks good. So from the top here, maybe I can just add like maybe 20. Is that too much? Maybe 10. 20 is better. For now, 20, it looks good. Because it's not necessary everything in the middle, but I don't want things to be in the middle, so I just want it to be like here for now. Now let's just simulate a very long name like this. So this is a very long item name. So it does overflow a little bit, which is something that I don't really like. So I'm just gonna wrap this with a scale box. Would that be a good idea? Let's see. Doesn't look bad. The problem is that you change that, right? So what we want here is just to change the size of the font. So scale box. Yes. We want the icon to be the same, but everything else, if it has to change, let's change. So now we need to look for that font, right? So if we go back to the widgets, fonts, and we need to search for the regular Cambria or bold, but I'm just gonna use the regular for now. Here, right? Now I don't have a color for this yet, because remember we have like different colors for the items, so I don't have none of that yet, unfortunately. But one thing that I have here is that I can actually do is that I would like to create this as a widget, which will be what we call a master slot or something. That will basically be, so every item will use the same widget but they will behave in different ways from the user, from a vendor, and when you put the mouse on top of it, you know. So what we're gonna do here is that we are gonna go back to the item slot. Actually, what we're gonna call here, instead of call item slot, I'm gonna call this item display. And then within here, I have here the what we call the list, and this is gonna be called the item let's say list, which is fine. And now I'm gonna create here the item slot, so the slot itself, right? So I'm gonna go back here to the user interface. I'm gonna create here WBP item slot, and this is gonna be the item slot for basically everything here. So what we need here, to be honest, is quite simple. We just need a border, and within the border, what we need is the image, which is gonna be the item itself icon. I'm not sure what's the size, right? But basically what we can do here is that we can try to put 100 for 100 is fine. This is gonna be the slot and slot border. Slot border. This is gonna be the item icon, right? So for now, I'm just gonna search for like an apple or something. Yeah, I'm gonna add maybe 5, so everything gets on the middle. And now the slot icon, this is gonna be a slot, right? And we're gonna use this item slot. As you can see, it's actually, we can even change a little bit, maybe like 10, just so it looks a little bit more decent, you know. Of course, different icons, they will probably have different sizes and stuff. Also, this slot, it's a little bit different from the grid, so we still need to figure out a way also to use the same for the grid, but we can make it those changes on the fly. One thing though we can actually do here is just that for the item icon, we can set the texture, set the texture. Actually, we are gonna pass the items a reference. So, I mean, we can do it. So set texture from here. We're just gonna create here the variable, and this is gonna be for now. I mean, I'm just gonna delete this. Probably I don't need this at this moment, because when we start to create the item inventory, we will start to see this list. I'm just trying to create the item first. Now here what we do is that we search for this slot, right? And we can just bring the slot right here, and we can delete that. So we're just gonna put the item slot, put it right here. Just gonna put it right there. Why is it not staying on the right place? There we go. Okay. Now we have a problem because this guy has a little bit of a weird size, right? So what we can do here is that I'm just gonna define that all the items, they will have a certain size. So I'm gonna search for scale box, and maybe what we can do here is that we can try to compile and save, and let's see what is going to happen here. Will that change anything? It doesn't change anything for now. Maybe you can try to fill or do some kind of a date, any information here. But anyway, so what we're going to do here for now is that we are going to go back to the item slot, and then we're going to wrap with a size box. I know this sounds a little bit of too much, you know, wrapping and wrapping and wrapping, but every component has their own information that we have to do, so it's quite useful for us here. So now if I compile and save this stuff, it should, maybe I'm just gonna replace with child. So I'm just gonna remove that top part, and I'm gonna add a size box here. I go back here. Okay, it does look better, a little bit better. It doesn't look too bad. I can see the icon, I can see everything. I don't like how much gap there is here, so I think I can figure out this by just clicking on the item itself. Maybe adding some kind of let's say a scale box. All right, so I can see that there's an issue here, right? So the gap. So what I was trying to do here is just try to wrap with maybe a scale box wouldn't be a bad idea. Because as the side shift, would that be a bad idea? I'm not entirely sure. Maybe we can try to change, for example, the padding here. So we can maybe add 5 or maybe, okay, or maybe 8. Maybe 8 wouldn't be that bad. The problem is that this stuff sometimes we have to, it's hard to match exactly how we want the UI. But for now, I think this looks quite good. You can always, tweak those values. I think it's just to do with, unfortunately, the size here that we added. It's just that the box here, if we add it to 1, like for example, go back here, we'll change the size of the widget. So maybe we can try to add here maybe 5, right? It does look bad here, but in here, it wouldn't look too bad, We just need to see like the size box that we're using, which in this case is 64 by 64, right? It looks quite good actually, so we can actually use this. And I think I think that's pretty much everything that we need for this. I can see that just one thing, there's too much padding here. I'm just gonna add maybe 10, and I'm gonna try to align this stuff on the middle. Maybe fill and align this on the middle for now, and then we have a nice list. All right, so now let's carry on with it. So we have the item, the list item slot, right? So we have the list item slot, and then in here we have the item slot, and then we have the base item slot, right? So what we have to do now is to create the list itself, because if you guys remember, I would like to do a grid system, and I would like to create a list system. And I would like to, on the settings, you say, okay, I want to use a grid. It displays as a list. Oh, I want to use it as a, just so you guys have a more understanding of how we can actually change things on the fly as well, just to make the widget a little bit nicer. So what we need to do here is that I'm just thinking on the inventory, we could maybe, I think what I'm going to do is that I'm going to create an abstraction, which is I'm going to create a list that I am going to add a list inside or something like that. So we can maybe, keep everything in one place. So I'm going to do a quick change here. So on the inventory itself here, I'm going to click and I'm going to edit that. And on here, we do have content, right? So we do have a little content that we add information. So I'm just going to replace this with a border. Or it doesn't allow me to add, but what I can do here is just going to delete that. And I am going to add a border, right? Now this border will basically be fill, and we are going to just change the left and right to something like maybe 5 by 5, right? And then the bottom, we're gonna add something like 5, or maybe even like 10 or something. Maybe 8. 8 does look good. Now the next thing we would like to change here is just that we would like to change the opacity. No. Cancel that. Here. I'm just going to change the alpha to 0, all right? And now you ask, but why using a board instead of a scroll box? Because I would like to set up the scroll box or the whatever I'm adding to the widget with already the settings that I want to be. So I don't want to be bound to this. I just want to use this as a blank canvas. That's all I want. So this is going to be the content. And it's going to make sure it's a variable, all right? Now that's fine. Everything we need to do here. Now what we're going to go back to the item slot, right? So we have the item list item slot. We have the I'm just gonna change the name of this to be called WBP slot item or item icon or something. Anyway, now I'm gonna right click here and I am gonna create a new widget, and this is gonna be what is it, world here, a widget blueprint, and I am gonna call this WBP list inventory item, or maybe I can just call list inventory or something, right? Now I'm gonna open up that, and here is where I'm gonna add my scroll box, right? And then within the scroll box, it doesn't matter the size because I want to make sure that it autofills. So I'm just gonna add here like you know, a couple of items here for now, just so you guys can see how things is gonna look like for now. And now what I can do here is that on the inventory, right now I don't have anything, right? So what I would like to do here is that for now we can go back to the graph, and on the event construct I'm going to create a widget, and that widget will be my list, okay? The list inventory. And now what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to get the window layout, and I am going to get the content, and I am going to add child, and the child will be whatever I created on the list. So as you can see here, let's see if this is gonna work. So it does look good. It doesn't look too bad. It does need some gap, you know, some space. But the cool thing of doing like this is that I can maybe, you know, go crazy here. And if you guys are, you know, if you're not used to what's a scroll box, let me explain you what it does and why I'm using this. So imagine that you have, let's say 1,000 of items. I don't know, have a many items. So a scroll box allow you to do this, you know, allow you to scroll up and down and do things. We can also create the scroll box a little bit with a designer, so we can change the style. For now, it's fine. It doesn't need to be changed. It looks quite good actually. And now, basically doing in this way. Also, the drag and drop works fine, so it doesn't change anything, which is really cool. It does reset the drag though, but it's fine. It's not something that has a major issue, right? But anyway, what happened now is that we can use this logic here to decide based on the settings of the inventory if it's a grid or if it is a list. So just to finish here, let's just create a grid as well. So I'm going to go back here and I'm going to create here the grid, right? And the grid, guys, it's easy. It's so easy to do as well. All you got to do here is that you're going to create a widget blueprint, right? And you're going to call this WBP grid item. How do we call it? We call list inventory. Let's just give it more or less the same name. So instead of so we're just gonna call grid inventory. All right, now we have the grid, which is really good. What we can actually do here is a scroll box. We can add a scroll box so we can scroll up and down, and now we can add a grid, right? So we can add like a grid, uniform grid. And here on the grid, what we can do here is that we can set the item, right? So we can add, for example, the slot item. So we can add one here. I'm just gonna add it inside. I'm gonna copy. So I'm gonna make sure that the grid fills and everything's aligned properly. I'm just gonna add a couple of items here, 4 and 3. So this is gonna be on the row 1. Sorry, 0, column 1. This one here will be on the column 2, and this one here will be on the column 3. Nice. So what I can try to do here is that let me just try to change the size of this custom on screen. Maybe it's going to be probably 400 by 600 or something. What I would like to do is that auto. Well, let me just double check. If I add this one here and add it on the column 0, row 1, what would happen? It doesn't look too bad. I think if we leave it on auto is best. Do we have a slot padding? So do we have like 10 or 20? Maybe what we can do here is that we leave us 4 for now, or maybe 3 or 4, maybe 10. 10 does sound good, doesn't sound too bad. And I'm just gonna copy and paste that one and change this to number 2, or maybe 1, the bottom one to number 1 as well. Here, which is good. And I'm just trying to create a very simplistic UI to make sure everything works properly before we can actually match the logic. So now in the inventory here, we're just gonna add a grid, right? We're gonna add here the grid, compile and save that. And now if I can press play, aha, look at that. I have an inventory kind of system working out, which is really nice. You see that there's a little issue with that. So what we can do here is that with the grids that we can change the size of the height. But I think that for now, it looks quite actually good. So what I'm going to do here, guys, is that in the next episode, I think we can finally start populating the information here with the item. So we can do things, for example, now we can drag and drop the stuff around, which is great, right? But in the next video, what I would like to do is that I want to pass the inventory information from the bottom to the chain up. And then all the inventory can know where it comes from and all that kind of information. So once again, thank you very much for watching, and I see you guys in the next one.